Hi, I'm Caitlin Halverson for California Hammin, and today we're here in the beautiful Santa Cruz Mountains at Werner WB6RAW's home. Werner, could you please give us a tour?
I'd love to. Well, first of all, welcome to the middle of nowhere. I always tell people that when they make it here, they get a merit badge. But we've enjoyed being up here for about 20 years, and we have raised our children up here, and it's a place now where I just enjoy Hammin in my semi-retired years. So let's go on inside, and I'll show you where everything happens. Okay, Caitlin, welcome to the Hamshack. This is where everything happens in this room here, and my hangout when it's cold and I don't go in the garage. This is where I spend my time in the Hamshack here. So it's set up for operating on HF and VHF and satellite. So we'll go ahead and head to the operating position. This is my favorite chair, especially early in the morning and late at night. Operating here on HF with the Gold Dust twins to my left here, my recent acquisition in my collection. And then here, a little bit of old and a little bit of new. Ever since I was first licensed, I just really loved working with Collins equipment. So this is my nostalgic Collins line above the K line, which I think is the 21st century Collins equipment for the modern day age. So I spent time operating both the Collins equipment and the Elecraft. As I mentioned a minute ago, I really enjoy both of those types of equipment, and they each really have brought a lot to the ham community over the years. So it's fun operating a little bit of old and a little bit of new.
All right, well, what's this operating system here behind us?
Well, that's a good question. One of the other things I do is I work the ham satellite bands. And that all started because I'm at Valley Christian Schools, and we're getting the students involved in learning about satellites and building satellites and putting experiments up on the space station. So I thought, well, I better build a satellite system here at the house. And I think we scanned some of the antennas earlier, and you can see those antennas. So this is the satellite operating position. I have a TS2000 here, which operates 160 through 1.2 gigahertz. Of course, in that setup, it's operating mostly in the VHF and UHF area to receive the satellites that are in orbit, and also be able to talk to the International Space Station. Well, we're on the roof now. This is my TH3 tri-band beam that I use for 10, 15, and 20 meters. It's amazing how well it works up here in the Santa Cruz Mountains down in this canyon, but it seems to work well. Okay, and the other part of the roof here are my satellite antennas for listening to Oscar satellites. The first one is a 450 megahertz egg beater made by M². It also has an SSB preamp at the base of that to mask the loss of the coax cable and to improve the system noise figure. And then similarly, there's a 2-meter egg beater at the far end here, also with an SSB preamp at the base of it. This is the feed point for my horizontal loop. It's one full wavelength at 80 meters, and it actually has gain on the higher HF frequencies and actually works all the way up to 6 meters where it has significant gain. An amazing antenna. I've used these horizontal loops for many years, and it's a lot of fun. So Caitlin, I noticed somebody's been following us around the house here. My goodness, it's Billy, N6YW. What are you doing here?
I was invited to come and share in the ham radio fun, and I heard through the grapevine that you have a set of Collins Gold Dust twins. And lo and behold, here they are. So the Collins collectors have a focus that they're really keen on. Some are really into the S line, some are into the post-70s stuff, and many of us, myself included, are into the 1950s stuff. And you've got a beautiful set of Gold Dust twins here. Tell us about your acquisition, and did you have to do anything to them? Were they already working when you got them? And how often do you operate this station?
Well, this is really a dream come true, because ever since I was in high school, I've always worshipped Collins equipment, could never afford it. And just about 6 months ago, a gentleman was retiring his hobby of ham radio, moving into actually a retirement community. He was quite elderly, and he posted on the Collins net that he had a pair of Gold Dust twins to sell. So I jumped on it, and he was just up here in Palo Alto. And I grabbed it, and the only thing I had to do was plug it in and turn it on, and it worked perfectly. So I don't get any credit for a great restoration job. It was really just one of those being at the right place at the right time. And it just sits here prominently, and I operate it occasionally on 20 meters, and on 80 meters I operate the S line and the K line. So it parks on 20 meters, and that's where it operates.
Well, I find the juxtaposition here real interesting, because we go from period to period. You know, obviously this is the early to mid 50s motif, and we go to the S line, which is at that time was state of the art, and then now we go to today's state of the art. And I'm very intrigued with the K3 setup. That's
yeah, they build some amazing hardware. Unfortunately, they're just right over the hill from us. And I know a lot of the people that do design work. I used to do design work with them in other areas. So great bunch of people. They do great stuff.
Well, I've got a question that I imagine some viewers would like to focus in on, and that's behind you, your bank of coax, which is over there.
That always gets people's intrigue, but the switches here, because I'm switching between the Gold Dust twins, the K line, the S line, and then I have another Hamshack down in the workshop. So I have to switch between all of those stations, and also between the other antennas that I have up on the roof. I needed to build this matrix of switches, and I was trying to figure out how to do it, and it started out kind of comical with all these things moving around in the table. So I said, "There's got to be a better way." Well, so that led into that.
I'm glad we could see that, because the way you have it arranged is so ergonomically accessible. It looks nice. We don't see a big tangle of wires.
Thank you.
And you have the nice modesty panel hiding the tangle behind it, right?
Yes. So that was fun, and it's also very practical.
So I've noticed you have some wallpaper over here. Can you explain some of these?
Yeah, well, everybody's got to hang their wallpaper, so I figured this would be a great wall because a lot of white here. Basically just my degrees, and undergraduate degree in engineering and master's degree in education. A meeting I did in Washington, D.C. with 1 million other men, which was a fun event. But the things that I think are really intriguing, and this really is an outgrowth of what's happened at the school, because we're getting the students involved in working on experiments on the International Space Station and designing a satellite. We've gotten a lot of attention from Washington. So we've gotten a letter from the president congratulating the students and the people that are guiding the students, from the vice president, from the Senate, from the legislature, and different people have been writing and saying, hey, great job, keep it up, because we've kind of lost our way as technologists, especially in education. And so we're trying to make a difference teaching young people about technology, and that's really my focus now, and I'm really enjoying that.
Well, over here on this wall, we have some very interesting paper, as you put it. And one of my favorite people, Tom Hanks, is prominently displayed. Would you tell us about this one?
Well, that was one of the most amazing things that's happened after we got these letters from Washington. We got a letter in the mail from Tom Hanks, and it was a hand-typed letter, of all things.
Wow.
And I'd never communicated with him. I don't know the man. But the more I read the letter, the more I was impressed. In fact, truth be known, I treasure that letter more than I do the letter from the president. And the reason is that Tom Hanks actually typed this letter. And how do I know that? Because he says so in the letter. And he says, please excuse the typos, because this typewriter does not have spell check. And he goes on to give accolades to the young people, which is really what we're after. And he says, let this hand-typed letter serve as a record of permanence, as is the experiments that your young people have put on the space station. And to me, he just nailed it. He really nailed it. And by typing it himself, like I said, it really means more to me than anything else I have.
Well, that is really something, and to tie all this in, we have one of our many astronauts in George Takei from Star Trek.
Takei, yeah, an interesting intersection with him. Back in the late 70s, I did a half-hour infomercial for a company that I had started, and we invited him to be our MC, and an amazing man with a photographic memory, and he just, talk about nailing it. He nailed it when he did that infomercial.
Cool. And one of my all-time favorite men of forever, Buzz Aldrin.
Buzz Aldrin.
Can you tell us a little bit about him?
Yeah, he found out about us as all these other people did and wrote us this congratulatory letter. Mm-hmm. And he actually wrote a children's book on space, and he gave us a hand-signed copy of that as well, which I keep at the school. But pretty amazing man as well. So I'm really glad that all these pioneers have gone before us and has really led the charge and given us some inspiration to continue doing that.
That is awesome.
So I spoke earlier about young people, getting young people into the hobby of ham radio, and this is one of the things I do. Last year we had a group of 7 students and 3 adults that wanted to learn how to get their ham ticket. So I put them to the challenge, and we had a ham class, and I'm happy to say that all of them passed the exam, and this is their celebratory photograph where they posed and did some funny things. But it's really fun to get people back into this hobby because I've gotten so much out of it. I've been licensed for 47 years, and if it wasn't for an Elmer in my life, I wouldn't be standing here and saying, gee, look how much fun I've had over the years. And I think all of us really need to take that challenge and get young people back into the hobby and let them see just how much fun it is and how much they can learn. So these are the kids I'm proud of. They just are now studying for their general, so that's coming up.
Do you do any building? You're good with your hands?
Well, I enjoy building a lot, and that's actually how I got in this hobby, because I wanted to learn not only how to build, but how to design equipment. And of course, I had an opportunity to learn how to do that. So I do have a workshop, and that's where that happens. So you want to go down there?
You bet.
Let's head that way, and then we'll do that.
Okay, we're down here in Werner's workshop, and one of the centerpieces is this beautiful S-line arrangement, and other equipment. Maybe you could fill us in on the heartthrob of this place here.
Well, I wanted to have an operating Hamshack down in the workshop because I just love listening and also operating with people when I'm down here working in the shop. So the S-Line serves that purpose, and we can switch that big matrix to be able to operate down here. But over here, this is the area where I do the building, and right now on the bench is a project that I'm working on actually for the RV, and we'll talk about that in a second out of the RV. But on my bucket list is a trip to Alaska to operate HF through satellite in the RV while we're headed to Alaska and while we're up there. So there's not a whole lot of room in an RV to put ham equipment, so I had to get creative and put it up into a cabinet so the XYL doesn't get mad at me. So we'll take that out to the RV, and we'll end with that, and you can see what that's all about. But
so
basically,
you'll have HF through UHF.
HF through 1.2 gigahertz in the RV.
And you had mentioned also that you'll be running like a half a kilowatt on
That's
HF?
Right. Yeah, I'll be a 500 watt solid state
Life's
amplifier.
too short for QRP.
Got to have half a kilowatt in the basement of the RV, as they say. So we'll head out to the RV. I can show you what happens there, and hopefully you can work us on the air when we're traveling.
One more question. Is this an amplifier that you built?
It is, and I'm going to probably keep that until the day I die. I built that when I was in high school, and I think I can even fire it up here. But I built that in 1966. It's got a pair of 4-400s in it, and I was very proud of it at the time. Still very proud of it. And one of the projects I'm going to be working on here, next up on the shack after the RV project, I'm going to restore the power amplifier because it was a little bit on the soft side. It would sag too much. So the power supply is going to get rebuilt, and this puppy will be on the air on single sideband from this station very soon.
Cannot wait. And let's go out to the RV and see what you got in store for us out there.
All right, let's take a walk.
All right, thank you.
All right, so I heard that you mentioned a trip to Alaska, something about your bucket list?
Yeah, I've always wanted to make a road trip to Alaska in an RV with my ham equipment and operate while we're driving and then also while we're stopping and salmon fishing and whatnot. So we're working through the bucket list, and we're outfitting the RV with ham equipment from 80 meters through UHF and VHF. So let's go inside and I'll show you what that's all about. We saw it in the workshop, but magically we have put it into the RV, and now you can see what it looks like inside the RV.
All right,
okay?
Let's go take a look.
Do it.
So is this where all the magic happens?
Well, hopefully. We had a challenge in finding a place to put all the ham equipment and still pass the aesthetic test with the XYL. So this cabinet ended up being the only place in the whole coach where this could happen.
Perfect
So it's going to be kind of nice. We have a chair where we can sit and we can have our coffee and we can operate, and it's out of the way when I'm all done hamming here. So we're really looking forward to talking to friends and people that we haven't met yet on HF through satellite work, and we'll be mobile as we do that, and we'll be parked doing a little bit of salmon fishing and enjoying that. So doesn't that sound like fun?
Yeah. All right, well, thank you so much for all your time, and thank you for joining us on California Hammin.
So, I have the Hamshack all to myself. Don't I look good? I really like the S-Line, but the K3 equipment has some awesome modern features. Glad he left the setup in push-to-talk mode. CQ, CQ, CQ. This is WX6DOG calling. Hurry, my master is coming back to the Hamshack. The shack smells like he just ate a bologna sandwich. Over.